Oh yes, it's that time again to lift up the topic of money grinding in Elite Dangerous. So go get your best stick and come join me in beating this dead horse. For obvious reasons, since this is the second time I'm having fun with this topic, I'll try not to repeat anything I've said already. So let's start. Now, whenever a new money-making train scheme comes along in game, a life is given to two sides. The cheeky wankers doing the money train and salty elitists or purists decrying it as yet another thing that is wrong with the game. Or that credits make frogs gay, or something. A favorite little argument for the purist side is, well, most of you hate grinding, but here you are, grinding. Spoken like a true poet, isn't it? Well, sure, if you're brain dead. Such thing as nuance or fact ignoring must be favorite pastime of these poets, isn't it? To quickly explain the situation for the most thickest of you, people flock to these money train things because either they would have to do less grinding that they are already doing, or it's an opportunity to pick up some good cash without the feeling of having your soul pulled out of your anus. Actually, here's my little question. Do you think people would flock to these money trains if there was no big need for money? But of course, with a good money train, there's always a good smacking of the nerf hammer. After 2.4 dropped, along with Targoids came the diarrhea runs, and yes, I'm still very much proud of that name. Then, in just a few days, devs made changes to shut it down, along it ruining many extreme long-range passenger missions. I know it's hard to program everything and so on, but at this point devs are relying on RNGs to deliver balanced missions too much. And when His Holiness inevitably parts his butt cheeks to eject the golden egg, devs in their almighty rage whack him upside the head, making it worse than before. More often it's just apparent that someone up there is using a damn sledgehammer, not a scalpel, to deal with the balance. Then after the patch drops, we're left wondering who demolished the poor holy son's face. If there's one thing you can easily notice in game design is that the players react poorly to any kind of nerf while rejoice when something is buffed. So when all you see developers do is just whack the poor RNGs upside the head with their pimp cane, I doubt many of us have the warm feeling whenever we look at the mission board these days. But okay, moving on. From time to time there's also an argument popping up about grinding and obscene prices for everything as being an achievement. Yes. The argument goes more or less like this. Well, getting something like Anaconda or any of the big three ought to be like this big achievement you reach in the game. You know, seeing someone in-game flying one of these ships should tell you that this pilot has put in time and learned things and managed to get it. Okay, so analogy of getting a diploma of higher education should fit here, right? No, that makes no sense. There is no challenge in getting Condor or any of the ships. The only thing that you can tell about the player flying in these expensive ships is that the player just spent a lot of time probably getting really intimate with some space rock on some asteroid belt, or killed billions of easy targets, or any other highly repetitive action, and now probably is dead inside. So getting any ship could easily be compared to owning a Ferrari. All you can tell about the person is the level of compensation and their wallet, not how skilled or experienced the person is. Seriously, this really makes me sick. So by this idea that a big ship is an achievement in this game means that by doing not hours but days and even months at time of repetitive, mundane, tedious and boring tasks amounts to some sort of grand accomplishment? Sorry, I play games for relaxation. Some use it as escape from reality. So now tell me, how can this be done if the game emulates the real life so much? Oh, but whenever you discuss the grind, there's always that either highly misguided cultist or a troll mentioning, but the grind is the game, or it's a grind if you make it. At this point, such apologists are loved by people who had enslaved them, slaves that don't see their chains, if you know what I mean. Sure, doing some tasks more than once can be fun, but you know, I'm not talking about small repetition here. I don't mind that. I've said this before, but the fact that we have 3 biggest ships locked behind insane amounts of money, and 2 of them are additionally gated off by a disgusting rank system, not to mention all the upgrades, shouldn't even raise a question if it's a grind. Well, that is unless you're stupid. And eventually there will be someone that comes along and says, well then, what's the point of having money at all in this game? Just have everything for free if you like these money trains so much and tell us all that prices are too high and mission rewards are too low. Just have everything for free. And you know what, even though this is always said with sarcasm, I would actually say this with a straight face. Yes, why not have free ships and modules? Alright, perhaps I'm just over-exaggerating here, but even so. To me, it seems that there are still new and old game devs that think that grind can be substitute for a proper progression system. Guess what? No, it cannot, you moron! If you, any of you, think that doing some easy tasks over and over and over and over again is the same as using basic skills in over-increasing complex way to accomplish next set of objectives, then you have absolutely failed the Logic 101. To use another analogy, the grind is basically like doing wax on, wax off for months, then getting your karate championship trophy in mailbox without ever leaving your home. But progression and challenge is actually using your wax on, wax off in a tournament combined in complex way to win a prize. So, do you get the simplicity and stupidity of grind now? Basically, with grind you're challenging your players not to get bored with your game. How stupid is this? Seriously. I mean, in free-to-play games, grind is used to lure people in paying for shortcuts. But here, what is it even supposed to be? Now, I mentioned the progression system. See, I hesitate to suggest anything to game developers these days, because first, I'm yet another player with wacky ideas. And second, there are tons of people like me making suggestions and hardly ever your ideas get picked at all, so you don't really feel that reward in making these suggestions. Still, I much rather have a single one-off challenge that would require me to unlock a ship than have the grind. AKA the idiotic and artificial attempt of having a challenge, gating off the thing. To give you an example, so we all start with Sidewinder. To unlock a holder you need to accomplish a relatively simple cargo mission. For Eagle you'd have to hand in a bounty, and so on. In both instances you are presented with different playstyles and get rewarded for trying them. Then as the player moves on to unlock something like a federal dropship, he must kill a mediocre difficulty anaconda or something in a vulture to showcase that a small ship is great at taking on a bigger ship as long as you have skill to outmaneuver it. And as a reward you get access to a really good Daka machine to further the evolvement of your skills. Again, these are just examples, but tell me, does this remind you of anything? Yes, that's right, engineers. Each engineer requires something different, and once someone says that they unlocked Palin, you can tell that the person did a few different things, and of course, had skill to accomplish them. Though, in case of engineers, there's still that layer of grind where you have to deliver that X amount of things. Though the tasks aren't that long, I would still prefer challenges rather than act like a stripper and grind something. As my last piece of thought here, I'll mention the obvious. The player base of Elite Dangerous is, let's say, more mature than your typical Call of Duty game, or whatever. And so these players, your audience, has less time to actually sit down and do these repetitive tasks over and over again. I could never really understand this, especially when power play is concerned. You know that your players don't have that much time to run about acting like Elite is their second job, and yet you force upon them this. Why? Is this really only to show the shareholders that the average player is spending more time in-game than going to their job? That would be completely cynical. But you know what? At this point, that's the best explanation I have, as sad as it may be. Oh, and as for the argument, well, you don't have to grind, just stay with cheaper ships. Yeah, that one's a gem, isn't it? There's just so much wrong with it, someday it might get its own whipping, but for now, I'll just say, that's not how game design works. So anyways, in comments, do let me know what you think of my little tirade, and am I right, am I wrong, or perhaps you have your own take on this. Whatever it might be, I'll be taking a look.